All right. Hello again, adventurers, and welcome to another exciting daily vlog. The daily vlog number 88. So today it is finally over. I have been really cryptic about all of this stuff for no reason other than every time I would talk about it, my anxiety would spike. Like, it's not that... All right, so what happened? For anyone who doesn't know, I live in a basement on purpose because of my panic disorder with agoraphobia. For whatever reason, I feel safest underground. And that's what it was when my brother and I were looking for a new place to get out of the place we used to live in. He asked me what things I would want in a new place, and one of the things is I want it to have a finished basement so that I can live there, because I just feel safer there. So, live in a basement is totally fine. The basement that I live in, half of it is one big finished room. That's where I am right now. It's very nice. It's remarkably well insulated. And the other half of it is only partially finished. There's walls. There is a kind of door thing. And part of it is my bathroom that also has the washing machine and stuff in it. And the other part is where our sump pump is. It's where I keep my mini fridge and the freezer that I have down here for my food. It's where our furnace is, stuff like that. So, little over a week ago, I found a dead mouse in my bathroom, which again is connected to the rest of the unfinished basement. And I flipped shit. Has to do with the fact that one of the previous places that I lived was 100% infested. There were hundreds of mice throughout the house. They got on everything. At night, I would hear them running around my room, chewing on shit. I have had nightmares ever since, and I lived there for years. I have had nightmares ever since. They bit me once. It was an extremely traumatic time. So, when my brother and I moved here, that was one of the things that both of us could kind of agree on is we're not going to deal with shit like that. So we have a great pest control guy. He's awesome. Comes out like 4 times a year. And he sprays, because my brother has a problem with insects in general. Like he has like full-blown phobia of insects. And I'm not particularly fond of them either. And then me, it's rodents that scare the shit out of me. So this dude comes around, like I said, 4 times a year. He sprays. When my brother was first looking at the place, he brought the dude out to literally go through the entire house and find every single place that something could get into the house and teach us how to make sure that they couldn't. So at like every crack in this, almost every crack, we'll talk about that in just a second. Every crack in this entire house has some sort of foam insulation or something to prevent critters from getting in. And we have a dude, he regularly comes out, he sprays for bugs, he baits for rodents and stuff like that outside the house, not inside. So what happened? Well, our house is so well insulated that we were starting to have problems with CO2 level buildup because the air outside was unable to get in and the air inside was unable to get out. So, like, my brother and I would wake up, like, dizzy and have headaches and things like that. And so I bought a CO2 meter and I turned it on. And at one point we were at, like, 1,800 or 1,900 parts per million. Which is dangerous levels of CO2. And so the solution that we had is we would go and we would just open all the windows in the house and basically let the house air out. But wasn't a particularly good solution. And as soon as we close the windows again, CO2 would start building up again. We eventually got some HVAC guys to come out. They installed basically a secondary intake for our HVAC system so it can suck in twice as much air from the outside. Now, for the most part, that fixed the problem. However, the short-term fix is I have windows, not in the finished portion. The finished portion, I have only one window and has never been opened the entire time we've lived here, because I have to keep it blocked so that it doesn't create a glare and backlight me. But there's windows in the unfinished portion of the basement. And for whatever reason, the windows themselves are a weird shape, and we can't buy screens for them that actually fit. I've looked into getting custom screens. They're like for the exact size of the windows we need, which they're just basic, like rectangle, like little basement windows. Like if you all have a basement, you know the windows I'm talking about. So I don't understand why they're not a standard size, but they're not. So to get a custom size to them is going to cost me $65 a piece of money I don't have. So what we ended up getting was we got these expandable Windows screens, but unfortunately, like width-wise, we were able to expand them to the right width. Height-wise, they were just a little bit too tall, so you basically had to kind of jury-rig them in, and then we used foam insulation to basically plug up all the gaps around it, because these aren't technically designed for that window. Or so we thought. I missed like an 1.5 or 2 inch wide gap in the side of one of the windows. And that's where our pest control dude, he went and he's like, yeah, this is where it came in. I'm like, really? Are you sure it wasn't? He's like, no, this is 100%. This is where it went in. When I saw that you guys did that, I thought that there might be an issue, but you guys didn't ask, so I wasn't going to, force my opinion on you guys at your guys' house. But yeah, I will guarantee you this is where it came from. And I said, so what you're saying is the mouse came from outside and immediately died. He's like, yep, probably just ate some of the bait from outside, crawled in, died. So there's no infestation or anything. He's like, no. Didn't find any indication of infestation. And I've been looking like crazy. If you ever think that you might have a rodent problem, telltale signs, rodents have to chew on things. Their front teeth never stop growing. So they have to chew on shit in order to survive. So you will find random things chewed on everywhere. Second, they leave lots of presents for you. And they're these tiny, like, rat trappies are really, really easy to see. They are kind of oblong, and they're like that and that. They're real tiny. But as soon as you've seen them, you will never forget them. And then when mice are running around, one of the reasons why mice infestations are so bad is they're constantly just kind of leaking stuff. And so they leave these trails of urine everywhere. And so the more mice you have in your house, the stronger the smell of ammonia will get. None of those things are happening in this house. I have searched high and low to find anywhere that might have been chewed on. Nothing. So I defer to our expert. We've gone, my brother actually went out and got more foam insulation that I can just fill that little gap. I haven't done it yet. Right now, the solution has been I just closed the window. But I prefer to leave the windows down here open. First of all, because it actually keeps it cooler in here because of my panic disorder and everything. I am always like running really, really hot. Especially when I have a panic attack, I get like a fever. So I like to keep it cool down here. During the summer, I will eventually close them. And also, it airs out the basement, which is really, really nice. And it keeps the air kind of fresh and clean. So I prefer to keep them open, and I will once I fill it in. But for right now, one of the windows is just closed because that makes it easier. So that was well over a week of my brain just inventing as many different horror scenarios. Like I had dreams of like stuff crawling on me and getting bitten again and being trapped in that place I lived a gig again, and I wasn't sleeping. I also developed something else that's pretty interesting. There's this thing. It's called plantar fasciitis. And it has nothing to do with the idea of, someone just deciding that Mussolini was massively misunderstood. And if you don't get that reference, please get out of the American public school system. No, it has nothing to do with fascism. It has everything to do with, on your foot, there is, I don't know if it's a ligament or a tendon. I know the difference between, or used to know the difference between them, but I can't remember which one this is. But there's a thing that basically connects your heel to the front of your feet. And that's the plantar something. And itis, if you've ever wondered when you hear medical terms, you hear itis. Itis is just a medical term for inflammation. So it's basically inflammation of this, I think it's a tendon. What it turns into is your foot hurts really, really, really bad. It is unbelievably painful. And it makes it extremely difficult to walk. I just woke up one day and the arch of my foot felt like someone had hit it with a sledgehammer or something. It was extremely painful. I could barely move my left foot. I went on Google and just kind of looked up a few symptoms. This plantar fasciitis, I think that's the term. I may be 100% wrong, but it's something similar to that. It has itis in it. It was one of the things that came up. I looked at the symptoms and they sounded similar, and I started looking for remedies. First of all, if it's an itis, if it's an inflammation, NSAIDs, things like ibuprofen, those are non-steroidal, anti-inflammatory, something with a D. So they reduce inflammation. That's how they work. So I took some ibuprofen, that helped. And there's also stretches that you can do to help relieve some of the tension and everything in it. So I did a few of these stretches, which is literally just like pulling on your big toe and trying to pull it into your shin. But it helped, but it still wasn't doing super, super well. And I looked at a bunch of the causes. Most of the causes are basically injury related. You run on your foot, you walk on your foot incorrectly. Being overweight can sometimes cause it because you're putting additional stress on it. However, I don't walk. I live in a basement. I live in a room that is half of our basement. So it is the largest room I've ever lived in, but it is the entirety of my existence. And I basically, on a regular day, I will go from my bed, which is about 10 feet that way, to this chair, and back again. And every so often I go to the bathroom. That's it. I don't walk on my foot very often. So another thing that can cause it is stress. So here's where things get freaky. The dude comes in. I show him where he found it. He goes through. He's like, this is where it is. He does all of his this stuff. Assures me that I don't have to worry about rats crawling on me as I sleep. And he leaves. I haven't slept at this point. I haven't slept well for over a week. Like, I will pass out every so often for a few hours, and that was it. That's how anxiety treats me. So I finally, my brother goes out to get the foam insulation. I ask him to pick me up a burger because I like to reward myself with food. That is not a healthy thing to do. That is just how I deal with this. So I got a burger from Culver's because I love Culver's. I ate my burger, drank some water, went to sleep. Slept for like 6 or 7 hours. I wake up, foot feels perfect. No pain in it whatsoever. I did get up and I eventually walked around a little bit and some of the pain came back a little bit. But it's looking like... I think I'm going to sneeze. Nope. It's looking like this was entirely caused by... I don't believe this is psychogenic pain. I believe that for anyone, doesn't understand. Psychogenic is a physical symptom that has a psychological cause, like the seizures that I have, the tremor in my arm. This isn't a muscular thing. This is entirely psychogenic. Doesn't mean that the symptoms aren't real. It means that they're not caused by a physical symptom. They're caused by a psychological one. I don't believe that the plantar fasciitis is a psychogenic symptom for my conversion disorder. I legitimately think when I was asleep, because it's the other thing about plantar fasciitis is it's worse when you first wake up, and one of the treatments for it is you actually get a splint for your foot, which basically all it is it's like a boot that forces your toes up so that you can't kind of clench them. I think what I was doing is when I was asleep, while I was having nightmares and all of these things, I was clenching my left foot apparently more than my right foot for whatever reason, to the point where I actually did damage to it while I was asleep. And now that I'm no longer freaking out and having all these nightmares, I just stopped doing it. It is the weirdest thing ever. I did go out and purchase, I'm not going to show you guys because then you'd have to see my feet, and that's not a pleasant experience. But they have basically compression socks that are specifically designed to help treat this plantar fasciitis. And it can be, like, it's a debilitating condition that can last years. It can be permanent depending on what causes it. So I have one of them on right now. Just because, again, after I started walking around a little bit, it started coming back. So I'm like, better safe than sorry. I'm going to wear these probably at least for a few days to help support the arch and help it to heal better. But my brain hates me so much. And, man, this has been one of the worst weeks I've experienced in years. It's indescribable what it's like to live in a situation like that. Like, it's just And yeah, like I said, the second I saw, because again, at the last the place that I lived that was infested, we found dead mice all the time. We would wake up sometimes, and if we'd let something like that we'd cooked with, if we let it sit out overnight, we would wake up and find dead rats floating in the water. Like, that's how bad this place was. So as soon as I saw it, like, my brain instantly took me back to where I was, and yeah, it was like living in a nightmare for a week. So yeah, that's been my last couple of weeks. Sorry if this has been kind of graphic. I'm so relieved that it's over, that I wanted to say something, because I realize a lot of the stuff I've been saying just sounded really dour and dire. And I didn't want you guys thinking like I'm getting evicted or something. Not to my knowledge. That has never been something that we've had to worry about. It has been unpleasant, but it is over, and I'm extremely, extremely relieved. Also, shout out to our super awesome pest control dude, because he's great and awesome. And if it weren't for the fact that I'm terrified of people finding out where I live, I would totally plug his company. But I have no idea where he's even incorporated. I don't know if he's actually from the city that we live in, or how far he travels to do our stuff. I would assume he has to be relatively local, because we didn't have a pest guy at our old place. Yeah, anyway, that's all for me today. I'm glad this is over and done with, and tomorrow I will probably deal with the gap and do a few other things, like the screens, because they're expandable. Basically, they have a little gap in the center because it's basically two screens that are connected, and so they go like shh to kind of fill. Well, this part right here you can kind of pull apart, and so I'm just gonna take some like plumber's caulk and just kind of fill in that little gap so the screen still works, but nothing can get through. Because I don't think a mouse could have gotten through that, but like flies and bees and stuff like that can, and I just don't. Again, my big phobia is rodents, but I'm not particularly fond of insects either. Specifically spiders and centipedes. It was another problem we had in the place that I used to live that was not good. There was bugs everywhere, and centipedes in general terrify the shit out of me. So anyway, that's all for me today. I will see you guys in the next time. All right, bye bye.